What's going on, guys? It's Roland Mayhem coming to you with another video. I know it's been a while. Things have happened. Life happens. Just what it is. I don't do YouTube full time, so therefore, obviously, videos are going to be few and far between. I don't stick to a schedule. I wanted to, but it's not doable for me. So that being said, a lot has happened in the last couple months. Let's go ahead and do a recap and do an overview. First thing, I bought a 1996 GMC Jimmy, 4-wheel drive 4.3. Originally thought to have a blown head gasket. Come to find out that somebody had did a head gasket job on it, or not a head gasket job, an intake manifold gasket job on it. And instead of actually using proper silicone for the engine block, they ended up using windowsill caulk, which in turn caused it to leak, which made it seem like it had a blown head gasket. I picked it up for $600, brought it home, and I'm in the process of tearing it down, and we're going to fix it. I didn't know that it was an intake manifold gasket leak until after I started unbolting the heads. So it's going to have a whole new top end when everything is said and done. Currently kind of like working on it maybe once a week, give or take. So I plan on doing a full overview on that, but for the time being, that's kind of where it's at for that project. Now the second project is a trackless train project, and the thing about the trackless train project is it's kind of something to do when I can't work on the Jimmy, something that I can buy piece by piece, find cheap parts, things like that. That's what the video is going to be over today. But I kind of want to just do the last project, which is a 00 gauge layout. And yes, it's Thomas and Friends. I am still a fan, part of the fandom. I enjoy watching the original series back when it was good and reading the RWS books. And I believe that there have been hints of that throughout my videos. And I do plan to show off the layout in its entirety once I get enough of it done to where I feel comfortable posting it on YouTube. I am still playing video games few and far between. And I do want to get some gameplay footage up. Now with the new computer, it's easier to do. It might be easier to do. I just got to finish finding all my software and stuff that I had before, and maybe finding updated versions of the software, so that way I can edit and do things like that. So there is that. But today we're going to talk about the trackless train, and I'm going to take you over there right now so we can overview it, check it out, see how we feel about it, and go from there. Okay, so this is kind of like where we're sitting at right now. Currently, it's not in its final form, obviously. It's just two separate subframes. Most people that build trackless trains use old lawnmower frames, and old lawnmowers that don't have a use anymore. And I've seen plenty of those, and that was going to originally be the route that I went, but it's just not viable for my uses, so it's fine. Me having to build everything from scratch, it's not really going to be using anything extensively, other than just putting around. Originally, we were going to do the Mighty Casey, and I was going to set it up, and we were going to run it and everything else, but after a lot of deliberation, talks, and things like that, although the Mighty Casey looks really good in its restored-ish form, I think I can go bigger and do better, and unfortunately I don't have any track to run this on, so this is actually based loosely off of a 14-inch gauge locomotive. Specifically, if you look back at the Popular Mechanics magazine, if you guys are interested in that, they had built a backyard railroad out of wood, and that's kind of where the concept kind of originated from, was the backyard railroad from Popular Mechanics. So here's kind of what we got. We've got Harbor Freight wheels, the smaller ones. That's also a Harbor Freight wheel. I need 3 more of those. We have these here, which are the steering knuckles and spindle set from Go Power Sports. I have 2 of those. This is going to be a subframe specifically for that. You can see where I got the holes drilled out. So that way that can get bolted to that on either side, and then we can kind of line it up, and then that'll be semi-permanent, or that'll be how it is. The secondary subframe is mainly for the drive wheels. I went ahead and drilled the holes evenly. I don't know how well you can tell, but that hole and that hole there, right here, right next to this wheel, are drilled evenly. But I'm probably going to have to take this one and move it up a hair. They're like 5/8 inch holes. Just because the track width between this wheel and the front wheel is going to be too shallow, and with all the weight on the back and the extra set of wheels on the back, if I was to make this axle drive, would be a problem. It would not want to turn. It would probably just continue to go straight, and unfortunately that's what I'm going to have to do. But I wanted it to be a 240, like the old Western style engines. Now, to the wheels themselves, they are Harbor Freight wheels. They have bearings in them, but they do have these bolt patterns here, which means that this is a split rim. So if I wanted to, I can unbolt this, and it would just like literally open this up, and then this has a tube in it. Primarily, these are used in like wheelbarrows, and things like that. I believe their capacity is like 300 pounds per load. So 300 plus 2, 600, plus the fronts, which are about the same. So yeah, about 1,200 pound load capacity, not including the center wheels, which is a little overkill because this is just a power unit that it's going to pull, and then the tender is going to be the main area that you sit in and everything else. So that's going to be nice. The tender, I'm actually going to splurge a little bit on, just because I need the weight, or I need the carrying capacity, due to the fact that this is going to be a battery operated locomotive. So I'm going to splurge a little bit, spend about $100, and go ahead and get the Harbor Freight steel wagon that you can get at Harbor Freight, and I'm just going to mod it a little bit so that way it can attach to the locomotive, shorten the shaft and redo all that stuff, so that way for the handle, so that way it'll hook up to the locomotive. But that's later. I want to get this rolling first, and at least the motor mounted and everything, to the point where I'm getting ready for detail work, which I'm actually currently 3D printing as a builder's plate and things like that. I'll get into that details later. But yeah, so with those being wagon wheels and having inner bearings, you're probably wondering, well, how the heck are you gonna add an axle to it? And a lot of people have shown on videos before of them taking these bolts out, running longer bolts with collars in them, which I've already figured that up, and then drilling the holes for onto the actual sprocket for this, and then just tightening them back down in sequence, so like an actual tire. And that seems to work. So I'm going to do that for all 4. So that way, if I want to add the option later on of being able to operate it being like a 4-wheel drive or even just a 2-wheel drive, I have that option, but it also acts as a spacer, and it doesn't look weird and things like that, because everything's going to be even all the way out. I'm very picky when it comes to that. I really want everything to be spaced evenly between wheel and frame, all the way around, on all sides of the locomotive. Um, the next few things is the electric motor. I'm still kind of shopping around, but I've kind of got one picked out of and put into my Amazon account, my Amazon cart. And it's like a $40 motor. I plan on running this similarly to like a car, how a car electrical system is. Basically having a main black wire go through the entire frame, and then having a couple different junction boxes that'll allow the main ground, and then running the other wires, the main wires, in through another connector that'll go to the back of the locomotive that will allow allow it to connect to the tender, which is going to have all the batteries and stuff in it, which I plan on using at least 4 marine grade batteries. Overall, the locomotive by itself without the tender is roughly going to be about 6 feet, 10 feet total if you include the tender. And like I said, I have set the holes. I'm going to set the holes up so that way later on, if I wanted to drop it down, I can. To be like an all 4-wheel drive locomotive, because eventually I want to upgrade this wooden frame to a metal frame, and when I do that, I want to be able to eventually put it on real track. So this is going to start life off as a trackless locomotive, and then later on in life I want it to convert it to actually run on real rail and actually be able to use it on a real railroad. Same thing with the tender, but that's the goal. So some of the details that I want to include specifically are the axles. The axles are actually going to, I've been shopping around for those, and they're actually going to be wheelbarrow axles. And the only reason why I'm going with wheelbarrow axles is because, number one, they're $15 for this retrofit kit through Gorilla, through Home Depot, that allow you to change a one-wheel wheelbarrow to a dual-wheel style wheelbarrow. And they are about a little over 25 inches in length, and they're more than perfect for this, because this chassis right here from end to end is 14 inches wide. So everything here, all the wood, 14 inches wide. It is literally being built up similarly to a 14-inch gauge locomotive. It might end up being about an inch over, but when it's actually on track. But that'll be later. That's re-gauging and things like that. I'm not worried about that. So the last thing really to talk about before I end, wagon. The actual wagon is kind of something that I've been thinking about for a minute. It's roughly about 4 feet in length, a little over 4 feet, and it's right at 25 inches in width, which is what this will technically be once it's complete, is about 25 inches in width. It was literally made to use that wagon specifically as a basis for the tender. It's also using the 4-bolt wheels that I have for the front, which is nice. So it'll all kind of just meld with each other. Only downside with the wheels is they're actually white instead of the black ones, which I've purchased, but that'll be fine. It's nothing that a coat of matte black won't fix. Not to mention, I plan on putting covers on these wheels anyway, so that way they actually have the drive actuators, because even though it's going to be a fake steam engine, it is also going to look semi-realistic as far as that goes. Basically, this is a giant model locomotive. I mean, that you can ride on. And I hope you guys will enjoy this little bit of an update. I'm going to try to work on it a little bit at a time. I know, like, stuff like this is pain in the neck to work on, takes time to do, but yeah. So if you guys like this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, go ahead and help the channel out, and I will see you in the next one.